All right, so that's nice. Now let me show you a way to debug requests. Let me share the browser here. Okay, if you want to know more about HTTP, I'm not talking a lot about HTTP because I assume you know some basic knowledge. You go to the browser and it makes a request. If you want to look more into that, you can search on your own HTTP if you want to know about the protocol. But basically, it's just a request and you get a response. The client, the browser, makes a request, and then the server, in this case the Express one, sends back a response. And the protocol is HTTP. So I'm going to go to the browser, open the Devtools with F12, or you can right click and inspect anywhere. I'm using Firefox. You might be using a Chromium-based browser, but it's pretty much the same thing. Some labels might be different, okay? So I'm going to go to the network tab. I think it's the same as Chromium, the same label. And I'm going to scroll up a little bit so I can see it better. I'm going to click to reload the page so I can see the requests here. Make sure to select all so you can see all of them. Otherwise, there's a filter. So I click all here to see all the requests. Okay, so I can see there's one request here to localhost 3000, and the method is get. You can see that here. See the slash, that's the root. And it's a document. I can click that to see more information about the request and the response. So you can see here, scroll up a little bit. We have response headers, we have request headers, we have the endpoint here, meaning that what's the method? Is it get? Is it post? In this case, it's get, and then the URL or address or whatever way you think of this. Typically, it's called a link if you're in the web site. Is this localhost 3000 slash, which is the root endpoint or route. And it tells you what version HTTP it used and so on, all this stuff. You don't need to worry about understanding any of this. I just want to point out that this is a way of debugging your request to understand the request and response. So HTTP has headers that contain information about the request or response. You can see them here, response headers. So request is what we made, right? The browser, the client makes a request to the server. So the request headers were all this stuff. And the response was all this stuff. So extra information. As you can see, there's even a header saying X powered by Express to let the client know, okay, our response was handled with the Express library. And you can see other stuff that's we're not going to really talk about, cookies or whatever. But if you click request, you can show you the payload if there's any. In this case, this request is get, and there's nothing to provide the server. So there's nothing here. But the server does have a response with some text, so we can see response. And it shows us hello world. And you can click raw here to see the raw text. It's probably converted to HTML, but it's not HTML. If you go back to headers, an important one for the response would be the content type, but we don't have any because we're not sending HTML nor JSON, as we're going to learn later. Okay, so that's the DevTools.